we are going to talk about patterns in relationships and how those patterns often sabotage our relationships.
So Brad, in your past, what were some habitual patterns that were causing negative events in your relationships, and it was happening over and over again?
Wow. So I think the biggest pattern was that I often would take things personally. So when my ex-spouse would come to me and say, this is an issue I have with you, I didn't know it at the time, but my subconscious mind would be like, oh, see, I'm right, you're not enough, because that's how I felt for 47 years of my life. And then I would have to turn it on her and fight. I would make it her issue. And then I would flight, meaning that for 3 or 4 days, I would be distant and cold, and I didn't like it, and I had like this weight on my chest, but I had no idea. And it wasn't until 3 or 4 days it wore off. And so, yeah, there was 2 of us kind of fighting for our significance and love and affection. And it's really hard to have a deeply connected relationship, intimate relationship, when you are not feeling enough and you're fighting for your worthiness. And I know that happens in so many relationships because 86% of Americans identify as not being very happy. So that's why we have a roughly 50% divorce rate, first divorce rate, and a 70-something% third divorce rate. Is we just repeat these patterns. And a lot of people want to say, well, it's your fault. You're the problem in the relationship. I'm going to go marry Susie, and all I do is I just replace you with Susie because Susie is most likely going to have the same behaviors as you until we fix our internal feeling of unworthiness.
So Brad, did you know at the time in your past relationships that it was how you felt about yourself, or did you think it was somebody else's fault?
Oh, of course it was their fault. It was always their fault, right? I had no idea it was me.
And then how did you discover that it was you?
Well, 2.5 years ago, trying to get my son help for anxiety, I realized that I had some childhood programming issues that were negatively affecting his anxiety and my life. And when I dug into those things and started to do research, I've spent thousands of hours now on the subject, not just relationships, just like holistically body-mind connection. Every relationship, it's never about the actual relationship. It's always about the relationship that each individual has with themselves. That's why marriages fail. That's why relationships fail. So if you're in a bad relationship and you're looking for the other person to change, or you're going to marriage counseling, you're doing the wrong thing, because it's not about the actual relationship. You've got to fix how you feel about yourself inside.
And if they don't have thousands of hours like you've spent reading all those books, like how do they make it better? How do they understand what the root cause of their internal work?
Wow. So look, everything starts with awareness. So I would highly recommend that you go take our self-love quiz, bradchandler.com/quiz, just to see where you stand, because maybe you have extreme self-love and there's no issue at all. So all change begins with awareness, and once you're aware of the fact that you may lack self-love, you've got to go back and see where it started from, because no one was born with lack of self-love.
How long is it going to take me to do that quiz? Like if our listeners don't have a lot of time.
The quiz is 12 questions, so it takes usually three minutes or less.
Okay, so in 3 minutes, I could probably learn quite a bit about what's causing me all that pain, like hours, years of pain in relationships, and probably thousands of dollars in counseling. I can get some insight in 3 minutes. You think that's possible?
Yep, absolutely, yeah. And then from that insight, then you can make a plan to figure out where it came from, and then you just reverse those thoughts in your head.
And if they need help making that plan, what do they, like, I take the quiz, then what do I do?
Well, we can help you. Just reach out at bradchandler.com, schedule a call, and if you are struggling with depression, anxiety, weight issues, if you have a bad relationship, it's all connected to one thing and one thing only. It's a thinking problem. And that flawed thinking problem usually comes from childhood programming. Your brain did its job when you went through a stressful situation. It said, why is this happening to me? Why is this bad thing happening to me as a 6-year-old? Well, it's because I must be bad. And it's great at 6 years old, but at 46 years old, it ruins relationships, it ruins health, it ruins businesses. It's just no bueno. So yeah, you can turn it around.
So what's the one thing that they can do now if, you know, they don't have time to do all that? What's the one thing that you would say is the most important thing that you did to turn your relationships from really negative, ending in divorces, to super positive and fulfilling?
Just work on yourself. It's always about yourself. It's how you feel. When someone comes and says something that's wrong with you, if you take it personally and it ends in a fight, that's a big problem. Conflict in a relationship or a marriage should and actually can bring you closer. But when you feel worthless or you feel not enough, it's almost impossible to do that work. So.
And do most people know that they don't feel enough?
I didn't know that I wasn't enough. So if I was listening to this video 3 years ago, I'd been like, well, I can tune out because I'm great. I love myself. I don't care what the other people think. I have high self-esteem, and it was all just a lie. And those lies end up costing me 2 failed marriages and millions of dollars in business mistakes and the use of weed and alcohol. So I think most people probably don't know. So that's why it'd be awesome to go take the quiz at bradchandler.com/quiz and just see where you stand. It only takes 3 minutes.
Awesome. Thanks, Brad.
Have an awesome day. Love heals all.